Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Guys, that was a big one. The Jets beat the Tampa Bay Lightning 7-4. They did the thing. They went in there, back home. They scored the hockey goals. Connor Hellebuyck made the hockey saves, and they win the hockey game. And before we get started, make sure that you like this video, like the live stream, and you also check out our flagship show of the Game Over Network, which is Hyper Drive Hockey. It's all things hockey across various leagues in multiple countries. Whatever it is and wherever it is, Max, Daphne, and Kev have you covered for all your hockey news with a steady dose of fun and fan engagement. You can find Hyper Drive Hockey on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I personally listen to it on Apple. You might listen to it on Spotify or something else, the internet, YouTube, whatever you do. So check out Hyper Drive Hockey at thegameovernetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts. So the game, the Winnipeg Jets beat the Tampa Bay Lightning 7-4. And it was not without controversy along the way. We had some goals get called back, or no, we had goals that should have been called back, were not called back. What are you going to do? What are you going to say? And then we also had, Kyle Connor left the game a little early. We're going to cover all of it. He got hit by Nikita Kucherov, which sucks. So let's start with the game. We had Connor Hellebuyck start this game off in kind of a way that set the tone for him. He had one of the best saves of the season so far. We had, who was it? You know what? Doesn't matter. The puck kind of came in off the backboard, bounced up in there, and he had to make a tremendous save going left to right, which was really nice to see. It's always nice when you have a goalie like Connor Hellebuyck. He comes in, makes that big stop for you, gives the team just quite a bit of confidence. And confidence is something that this team, they're just oozing with it. They wake up in the morning, and they piss confidence. I don't know what to tell you. It's amazing. And then you're in this game, and the Jets are fighting. It's a pretty good back and forth. And then the puck goes in. There is just a whole bunch of chaos in front of the net. The Scheifele line's out there. The DeMello pair's out there. And the DeMello and Morrissey pair. And unfortunately, the puck just goes in. But this is where some controversy comes in. It looked like Connor Geekie had his stick, and he just pushed Kyle Connor right into the net. Just kind of like tapped him in there. It looked like he was trying to score a goal, but Connor Hellebuyck's pad was the puck. And then the puck just kind of comes out. It looked like it actually went in before that. And then the puck kind of pops out. And who was it that scored the goal? I believe it was Brandon Hagel, who just kind of popped the puck in. And that sucked. And we kind of looked at it. People were not happy about it. We have some tweets from our viewers. Remember, if you tweet at me, or if you're just tweeting through the game, make sure you're following at OJetsO. I might just grab your tweet from twitter.com. I'm not calling it X. And I might just bring it up on the show. So we have a few people. We have a Canadian beard geek who said, "LOL, guess you can just push the goalie in the net." Guess he can. And you know what? There might have been an explanation for it that I didn't see. But I gotta tell you what. I just, from my understanding of goalie interference, where you have to give the goalie an opportunity to make the save, that one just made no sense to me. In the comments, if you're watching, you're chatting, type if you think it was goalie interference, and if you think it wasn't, maybe help me out here, because I have no idea how that goal wasn't called back. We have Ava. Ava just helps me show prep. Her tweets are always so good. What even is goaltender interference? That is the age-old question we must ask ourselves as hockey fans, because the NHL really doesn't want to give us an answer. And then LMFAO, what? That's such a joke? Yep, for sure. And I love when they're clumped in like this. Just what are we even going to say? What are we going to do? And it's hard to say that there's any sort of bias or anything against the Winnipeg Jets. They are the least penalized team coming to this game in the NHL. They're averaging about 4.7 penalty minutes a game, which Logan Stanley by himself beat that tonight with his fighting. Logan Stanley. And so we kind of get that goal interference. Then right off the bat, the Winnipeg Jets they challenge it. Once again, don't know how that wasn't goaltender interference. And then they are on the penalty kill, which they get scored on again. And that penalty kill, it was a little tough out there. with while their power play has been really good, their penalty kill has been kind of even at the pack, which you wouldn't expect with a team like the Jets, where they're so good with the Jets are so good with their goaltending, usually pretty good on defense, and they just kind of you just kind of think that'd be a better penalty killing team. We got my boy Fife in here. He says pushes his stick into Helly and the puck's not even in the crease, clear cut. Yeah, I just don't think that is a goaltender interference at all. So and then on the penalty kill with the Winnipeg Jets, it kind of looked like everyone was standing still. They were doing some puck watching. They didn't really rebound. Logan Stanley was covering. We're going to see Logan Stanley a lot today. Logan Stanley was covering kind of Nikita Kucherov, who does this soft little pass right up to Braden Point's stick. Braden Point is able to get the puck and just toss it in the net. And Neil Pionk was kind of covering between Gensel and Point. Point also didn't finish the game. And he was able to just score the goal there. So the Jets were down 2-0. Things were bad. Things were not good. They had to try and get away back. But I think the title of this game, if we had to say anything, would be resiliency. You know, we have that goal called back. Connor Hellebuck's dad tweeting, always a good follow for Jets Twitter. He wasn't happy with the goaltending interference as well. And then we kind of get into this game state where we're not sure what's going on. We don't know how the Jets are going to respond. But the Jets, they are just oozing this confidence this year. And they come in the Mark Scheifele line, who it feels like when Mark Scheifele's line, they had that loss against Toronto, the only loss of the season, and 5-on-5 play was the big thing. And so the Mark Scheifele line comes back on there and they push and they go, hi Josh, and they go and they really try and push into the game. They really try to make that pressure happen, and they did. They came back and they had a great shift. And off of that, they go and that kind of piles up. You have one shift that leads into another. You get all that momentum, and then eventually the Winnipeg Jets are able to score back. It was Vlad Nemestikov who scored a goal, which all came from Cole Perfetti's forecheck. And Cole Perfetti's a player. He's a skill player, not the best skater. Has a beautiful forecheck that really that makes a Tampa Bay Lightning defender cough up the puck, gets it onto the stick of Morrissey, and Josh Morrissey is able to just find the kind of back door, Vlad Nemestikov, and the puck squeaks in. And one thing you kind of notice in this game is that Andrei Vasilevsky was not playing. Don't know why they're not starting Andrei Vasilevsky against the best team in the NHL right now, but who am I to say? I'm not their coach. And then through that, they come out in the second. And again, Vladimir Nemestikov in the intermission, he talked about when he was doing an interview for TSN, he was talking about the coming back, the resiliency. And he comes in, and this whole team comes in, and they dominate the beginning of the second. The Tampa Bay Lightning didn't get a shot for 8.5 minutes in this thing. They pushed. The Winnipeg Jets did, and they came up with a couple goals. They got the tying goal again. That forecheck from that second line. Nikolai Ehlers behind the net, pressures the puck, gets it up to Logan Stanley, who rips the puck home. And what a great way to start the second period. And when a guy like that scores, morale on the bench goes up. If you've ever played a team sport, especially beer league, you ever have a beer league team where like your buddy who doesn't score often, maybe he's just kind of learning how to skate, he's getting to the game, and he scores a goal, huge morale booster. And you could see it on Nikolai Ehlers' face. He was so happy for the Stanimal to score that goal. And then another one where the goal that Mark Scheifele scored, and that was another one where they go and they just pressure Ryan McDonagh at his own blue line, coughs up the puck. The Winnipeg Jets go in there, and Gabe Vilardi and Mark Scheifele just have this beautiful rush, and they go in there and they score the goal. And then they come in there, and it's really nice. You really love to see it. And then the Winnipeg Jets, they get into the third. There is a few things that happen here. And it really kind of starts this period off with Logan Stanley's hit. And Logan Stanley comes across and he just levels, I forget which Tampa Bay Lightning it was, but he dummies him, gets into a fight. And I am not the most traditional hockeyist where I think, oh, fighting gets the boys riled up. But Logan Stanley, just his fingerprints were all over this game. And he comes in there and he gets the Jets a power play. And Alex Iafallo gets the goal to get them up, and then they get it tied again because Vladimir Nemestikov, kind of fumbles the puck in front of his own net. That stuff's going to happen. It's just unfortunate. But then the Jets, another game of resiliency where they rebound from that, and they come back on. The Dylan Samberg gets the puck at the point, just rifles it home. Scheifele's kind of screening the goalie really well. And then from there, they hold on to the game. They buckle down. They get a few empty netters along the way, and then they just win the game. And that's kind of the recap in there. And it was just beautiful to see the Winnipeg Jets come out on top like that. And before we get into our second period there, where we're going to talk about the Jets defense, I want to talk about Kyle Connor. I want to talk about kind of their next man up mentality that they have. But before we do that, Stan rocked Luke Glendening. Thank you. Luke Glendening, the journeyman kind of fourth line center in there. Really appreciate that. So before we get into the second period, let me tell you about LaRouche. And Game Over Network here, all of us, we're an independent production focused on community inclusion, Winnipeg Jets pride game today, by the way, and quality people. If you're interested in supporting the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available. In the description of this episode down there by the like button, you should be liking and subscribing. You can always change your mind later if you subscribe. If you're sick of my face, if you're sick of Ty's face, you can always change your mind later. But hey, if you like this video, you like this live stream, let's just like and subscribe, guys. Guys, come on, it's free. But if you want to help crowdfund us, you can find a link to our Patreon page. And then through LaRouche, it's a crowdfunding program for companies originating in Quebec. We are a Quebec-based company. And we're aiming to raise $15,000. And if we hit that goal, we'll get access to government grants. And if you have any ideas what you'd like to see for giveaways from these crowdfunding efforts, please let us know in the comments, on Twitter, on Instagram, or in our Discord server. Our Discord server is also down below. That is a great way to support us. Just come in, chat with us. We have public forums. The Winnipeg Jets one is awfully quiet all the time. So let's get in there. Let's chat it up about the Winnipeg Jets. And now we are in the second period. This is the part where we kind of talk about overarching themes, the things that are kind of connecting the Winnipeg Jets season together. And I think a scary thing for the entire NHL is last year, the Winnipeg Jets, and I've said this a few times before, they seemed like they want to win games 0 to -1. They seemed like they would just kind of not hide, but they would like sit back. They would sit back. They're like a defensive, like almost like a tank in the RPG is, I think, the kind of comparison I made before. And they just kind of soak in all this effort. They soak in all these attacks. They soak in these things, and then they just counterattack. And that's how they got their offense. The Winnipeg Jets are leading the league in goals per game. And that's scary because they have a goalie like Connor Hellebuyck who they can kind of let some chances go because, as you saw off that initial save that he made, he's just incredible. And with that, like they're getting offense in the game from a lot of different places. They're getting it from their defense has been a huge originator of offense. Their fourth line, they haven't scored a lot, but they're definitely generating a lot of buzz out there. And they're like through the top to the bottom, like their top 9 players on forward, they're all kind of averaging. They all got about like 9 points or higher. I know Lowry and Nino Niederreiter and Appleton, that third line who's mainly focused on those matchups, they're all chipping on the offense, which is so nice to see. It's nice to have that balanced attack because the Jets don't have a superstar. They, besides Kyle Connor, who's playing like hurt level right now, but they don't have a guy who can just like a Nathan McKinnon, the type where you go into a playoff series and you're so worried about that one centerman, you're so worried about that Cale Makar, that McDavid, that guy who could like that heart level trophy. And let's see if Kyle Connor can continue this pace because if he hopefully comes back, hopefully he's not injured. And you want to see you want to have that like kind of balanced attack, and that's what they're getting right now. And it seems like there's this large next man up mentality. And when teams go on those like long playoff runs, like the Jets are hoping to do, you don't often see a team that it's just one player. Like when the Edmonton Oilers went to the final last year, you would of course have the McDavid games, the Draisaitl games, but then you would have games where it's like, oh, this is the Matthias Janmark game where he comes in, he scores a couple of goals, he has some really big moments for this team. And that's kind of how the Jets have been operating this year. They have a bunch of guys come in, and this game, it was almost like the Logan Stanley game, the way that he had that big hit, he had that fight, he scored the goal. His fingerprints are all over this game, and you kind of see just that next man up. And while Kyle Connor has this huge point streak, it's just such a group effort from all these guys, just top to bottom. And Scott Arniel has these guys playing really well right now. And a huge part of that is the defense. The defense has been so offensive this year. They are so fluid. The defense are not afraid to kind of rush up despite the score at any given point. You have guys like Colin Miller has quite a couple of goals here, a few goals this season. Neil Pionk and Josh Morrissey are both in like top 5 of defensive scoring this year. Cale Makar is at like 21 points. Like he's just not, I'm not even sure he's human. They should probably test that guy. But you have Neil Pionk, you have Josh Morrissey, you have all these players who are combining in, and they're all playing a similar style. They're all shifting around. They do lots of this fluid motion at the top of the kind of offensive zone, and they get into open areas. And there was that one Neil Pionk goal, I believe it was on Friday, where he comes in and he comes straight down the middle of the ice and he scores from like 3 feet out, like the Nino Niederreiter spots. And this defense has just been so active. They've been so in it. And it's been a really big part of why the Jets are special. Like Dylan Sandberg scored today. And while like individually, you still kind of think that you might need an upgrade on defense, but they're having such great success with their kind of layered offensive, the way they're playing, the way they're pinching. Like Dylan DeMello's often leading in the rush, and he hasn't scored yet this year, but he's helping kind of attribute to that pressure, attribute to that goal scoring mentality that they're having from their defense. And speaking of Dylan DeMello, I thought Dylan DeMello really rebounded today. He's been having kind of a tough start to the season. And while that's okay, it's not something we've come to expect from the man. He is kind of that rock, that new age defensive defenseman. And one thing you saw from him today is at the end of the first period, Jake Gensel was just sitting alone from the net. And one thing I'm kind of getting tired of is people taking liberties in front of the Jets net. And again, I'm not the most old age hockey guy where I think everything needs to be physical, but I think the Winnipeg Jets could benefit from having not necessarily players who are more physical, but just more of a physical mentality. And when Dylan DeMello saw Jake Gensel there, saw him standing in front of his own net in the game today, Dylan DeMello just went up to him, started pushing him, boxing him out, getting him out of there. And that really kind of turned the game around for him, I think, is just kind of getting into that fight. And he was so much better in his decisions. There's a few games this year where he's just trying to make the pass and it just doesn't go through, and it's kind of causing the Jets to kind of get back on their heels. But Dylan DeMello just making those better decisions, coming in and kind of bring everyone onto the fight with him almost a little bit. And that kind of was a turning point for the Jets in not letting people just come into their net and taking liberties in front of them. And then when it comes to Kyle Connor has an assist. I believe it was on the Dylan Sandberg goal. That start to the season he's having is just absolutely incredible. And it's something that we've had guys on this team kind of have really hot starts. We want to name or remember Toby Enstrom's start to the 2013 season before he got hurt. He was like in Norris conversations. I think it was like him and Chris Letang they were starting to talk about. And he was on such a hot streak. He was leading the league in defensive scoring until he got hurt. We've had guys like Patrick Laine come out and have those huge goal scoring streaks at the beginning of the season. That 2019 season where he scored like 18 goals in the month of November. We've had him, they showed on the broadcast tonight when Patrick Laine had one of those streaks. I believe it was 15 games is the longest in Jets 2.0 history. But with Kyle Connor this year, you're just seeing a player and it feels like he's rounding out his game. There was that one play when the Jets were on the power play and Josh Morrissey broke his stick today. And Kyle Connor was like in his one-timer spot and he caught, I forget which Tampa Bay Lightning player it was. It might have been Hagel again, but he goes 200 feet. He catches the guy and maybe he didn't get the puck off his stick, but it was such a contested shot that that the Tampa Bay attacker couldn't make a move. He couldn't get a clean shot off. And where it's not always about making the play completely, it's about making the other person make contested plays. And that was so nice to see. And it's just like Kyle Connor rounding out his game, his power play streaks, his goals, his assists, those were always going to be there. And just him with that back pressure, he's been really good at. And it's something you really like to see because he's always been criticized for his defensive play. We've seen kind of these analytics come up and say, is he just a Phil Kessel where he has nothing to offer defensively? Does he get in on the forecheck? And he's not much of a forechecker just because if the puck does pop out, you want it to come into Kyle Connor. But that back pressure, those things he can control, the different ways he's like playing along the boards, it's just so nice to have this guy come in and kind of give more of an all-around game and have probably be the best winger the Jets have had since like prime Blake Wheeler to start this season. and it might come off. And when he got hit by Nikita Kucherov today, it's really scary as a Jets fan. But you really, from a guy who doesn't miss a lot of games outside of his injury last season, who was it? Ryan Strome, who gave him kind of that knee on knee. You really think he's a guy who's really durable, and hopefully he can continue this play, and whatever kind of ailed him from that hit from Kucherov doesn't leave him out too long term or at all. And with that, I think we'll kind of turn over to the third period. And before we get into the third period, let me tell you about Game On, our Game On show. So Game Over has you covered. We're after the game. We're here. We are here to kind of cover things. But in order to get ready to watch your favorite team or your favorite sport in general, you've got to get your game on too. And Game On Hockey is a short-form daily news podcast covering everything you need to know about the hockey world today in under 10 minutes. I'm going to talk to you for like 30, 45 minutes today. But if you want it under 10 minutes, we have a show by Graham Mossaman, and it's Monday through Friday, and it's with the Game Over Network YouTube channel. And it's also in podcast form, and you can find that at thegameovernetwork.com. And Game On also features local shows for each Canadian market, and those have kind of been postponed. We're going to get that back. We're finally getting our Winnipeg show, our Game On Winnipeg show. They're just kind of refocusing it. So let's kind of see that. So let's really help out Game On Winnipeg once that kind of gets in. And then create what Ira says, Blake Wheeler for Blake of the Year. Blake of the Year is a different podcast. But you know what? Blake can definitely win Blake of the Year in 2017 when he was like the best winger in the NHL. So we're going to go on to the third period. And the third period is when I get to talk about whatever I want to talk about. I'm the host. I plan the show, and I want to talk about Logan Stanley. Now, Logan Stanley is kind of a polarizing figure on Jets social media. He's a guy where some people really want to keep giving him a chance. He's 6'7". He's got these physical tools that he has with himself. And then there's other people who watch him play, and they kind of see, he's not the best skater. He's not the best puck handler. But the Winnipeg Jets keep playing him, and it kind of builds up this kind of divide in Winnipeg Jets land. And with Logan Stanley, it's really nice because I was going to talk about him anyway today. But he scores the goal, he has the fight, he has the hit, and the Stanimal came to play. Now, with Logan Stanley, the Winnipeg Jets traded up in 2016 to get him. They went from, I believe they had to the 22nd overall pick, and they moved up to the 18th overall pick. They traded a first and their second, which is a pretty early second. And they got a first and a third, and with the third round pick, they selected Luke Green. With the first round pick, they picked Logan Stanley. And it feels like for so long they've been trying to justify that pick. In the Seattle Kraken expansion draft, they protected Logan Stanley over Dylan DeMello. Then, while we're talking about this, don't know what Hayden did to play himself out of the lineup by almost MLG Gaming. Dude, you're talking to the right guy. I think they're undefeated with Fleury in the lineup, which is funny to say because they've only lost one game. But Hayden, he was out there too. Hayden Fleury was out there blocking shots. He had so many block shots. And it was almost like, when you block a lot of shots, sometimes it's almost saying, okay, you're in your own zone a lot. But Hayden Fleury was showing he was willing to put himself on the line. He had pretty good puck moving, and it feels like he was just not a jack of all trades, but he was pretty good in each area. He didn't seem to have a glaring weakness. And Hayden Fleury, I think, was very good, very serviceable on the line of defenseman. And with Logan Stanley, again, they protected him in the expansion draft over Dylan DeMello, who's they're definitely their best defensive defenseman. And seemed like they're trying to justify this pick since they made it, and they keep giving him those opportunities. And that one time he did score 2 goals against Carey Price in the Montreal-Winnipeg series. But Logan Stanley, he comes in these lineups, and he leaves a lot more to be desired. You saw in that one goal today by Braden Point on the penalty kill, he just seemed kind of lost. He didn't have his stick in front of Nikita Kucherov, so he couldn't make the pass, or he had to make a harder pass. He was kind of flailing around. He just kind of shifted his legs around to kind of create openings for a guy like Nikita Kucherov, which you just can't do. You got to find a way to block that pass or make it more of a contested pass. But then he kind of turns it around, scores the goal, and with him, he's always been a shooter. And I think And maybe let's to his detriment, he's going to shoot when he has the puck. But with him, I think we need to implement a be nice to Logan clause. And that might be controversial. So with Logan Stanley, Logan Stanley doesn't choose to play Logan Stanley. Logan Stanley is in the lineup. He's just doing his job. He's just out there doing great. But one thing I want to see from Logan Stanley, and please, Logan, do more of what you did to start the third. You are 6'7", and I think we can analyze Logan Stanley from the point of we just want to see him be a little bit more physical. We want to see him make an impact. And I think he can do that. Like the Winnipeg Jets lost Brendan Dillon this last year. And when they lost Brendan Dillon, they lost a lot of that physical play. And now there's kind of more real estate around that Jets net. And I think when we were watching that Toronto game, there was a play where John Tavares was just kind of whacking at Hellebuck. And it was whacking at Hellebuck. And Josh Morrissey was standing right there. He was staring right at him and just let him do it. It's like, and this is like the old man hockey brain in me. But I'm just like, no one should be whacking Connor Hellebuck. And if Logan Stanley can be the guy, when he's out there, if he's going to be playing, if you're 6'7", go out there and be 6'7". This man, like this man has all the physical tools to be this imposing figure. And it feels like he loses a lot more of the physical battles than he wins. And you see him like he kind of like falls down to the ground. There's a time when he went behind the net, hit a guy, and he was the one who fell over, and that happens. But when he really turned that on, when he turned that part of his game on in the third period today, he went out and he laid out Luke Glendening. He got into the fight, and he was almost not even trying to play hockey, but he was playing a role, and he fit a niche. And one thing I love about good depth players is when they have one skill or one attribute and they're great at it. And the Winnipeg Jets would not be the only player playing a defenseman who maybe isn't the best, but is super physical like that. You think of guys like Eric Branson. You think of guys like, who's the guy in Toronto, Simon Benoit, just guys who are down there to be physical, and they're not playing the most of your night. They're the sixth defenseman for a reason. But if you go out there, you get real physical, you play like you're 6'7", and we don't take penalties like we're closing our hand on the puck, but we take penalties like, maybe we were a little bit more aggressive. Maybe we throw a hit that was a little high, but we're 6'7", so it's going to happen. And I'm not advocating for super violent hockey, but I'm more advocating for protect your goalie. Throw a hit. Try to change momentum in what way? Because when Logan Stanley is trying to make a bunch of plays, it doesn't always end up the best for the Winnipeg Jets. And I think one thing that he's really good at is keeping it simple. When he has the puck at the point, again, he will just shoot it. He doesn't think twice. But you can work with that kind of knowledge. You can work with that dependence. You can work with that reliability in the way that you know what he's going to do when he's out there. But let's kind of change some of the things. Let's get him to be more physical. And let's make it work together. Logan, let's make it work together. And when Ville Heinola comes back, it'll be really interesting to see what they do. He's been skating, I believe they said. And it might turn into a thing like against a more speedy team, they may want Heinola in there to kind of move the puck. With a more physical team, they want to get Logan Stanley in there. But if Logan Stanley is going to be effective in that role, and I think it was kind of a chippier game tonight, he's got to be effective in that role, playing a certain style. All right, and before we get to overtime, remember, overtime is the place where you get to ask me any sort of questions. Just comment below, start typing, and I'm going to say a couple more things. So get your questions ready, get them in the chat. Let's go. And while we get into that, I'm going to tell you about some of our merch. So with our merch, we have a beautiful hoodie, we have a beautiful mug, and I've been talking about this mug this whole time. I love this thing, and you can get some merch right at this QR code. It's right over here. I never get that right. And what better way to support something you love than by rocking it as clothing? Game Over's apparel line has dropped. I'm getting the hoodie. I'm getting the mug. I'm getting like 5 mugs. Like don't even worry about it. And with this, and we have 3 unique designs. Whether you feel the nostalgic pull of our retro skater, you want to make a statement with our established design, which is currently on sale, or you want to wear your love for goalies proudly with our Live and Die by the Goalie design, or you just need another coffee mug to get you through the winter, we've got you covered. By the way, the mugs are amazing. Like, look at these things. designed by Brady Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg. That's us. Use the QR code on stream now and take a look through our apparel store and help us rebuild the local sports media in Canada while repping your community. All right, and hopefully we get some questions here. Anything from, I'm keeping the QR code up actually. Anything from, how's your day? How's your guys' Sunday going? I felt pretty good. The Winnipeg Jets did a great job. And what else can we talk about? So yeah, Logan Stanley, he's 6'7". What a time to be alive. Great guy. All right. And if we don't have any questions coming in for Game Over Winnipeg, I can wrap the show if any pop up. Thank you so much for watching Game Over Winnipeg. Please like and subscribe. Whether if you're a podcast listener, give us a 5-star review. That really helps. And please, then, if you were a podcast listener and you want to hear the show live, why don't you come to YouTube, click like on this video, subscribe, click the bell. You'll always know when we're live. We're always live right after the game. It's pretty sweet. And then you can also check out our other Game Over Network channels. We got one for every Canadian city. We have a kind of a general account called the Game Over Network, and that's where you can find Game on Hockey as well. So we have Almost MLG Gaming, who coming in here. If Connor is out for a few games, what do the lines look like? Thank you for asking the question. So if Connor gets out, I can really see them. Scott O'Neill is a big fan of the Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde line. And I think that's something he could revisit, because I think with the way the Winnipeg Jets kind of play their lines, the first line is the Scheifele line. And if it's Scheifele, Ehlers, Velarde, or Scheifele, Connor, Connor's not there in this scenario, or Ehlers, Scheifele, Connor, then Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde, they're going to play that as the first line. No matter what, the Scheifele line is line number 1. Line number 2 is kind of, depending on the game, it usually feels like, and this goes back to the Rick Bowness, a bit of the Paul Maurice days, the Lowry line does feel like the second line. They match up against the other team's top line, and so they usually end up playing a little bit more because the other team is going to be playing their first line more than their third line. And with that, the Lowry line usually gets a little bit more ice time than the third line. So what I think they might do is they actually might, then it leaves you a spot on that second/third line, the Perfetti and Nemeskov line. They might look at that and be like, okay, this is our opportunity. If Connor is out long term, I think they might call up Brad Lambert. That might be the opportunity. They have to get this guy in the lineup and really see what he is, especially after he has a few games in the Moose under his belt. But if it's just for a few games, you could see them kind of just trying to plug the hole. You could, I wouldn't mind seeing, I think Alex Iafallo, they would really like to shoot up there. And I think that he's definitely filled it on that line before. They might want to get some more speed up there with Ehlers, because Scheifele isn't the most flight of foot. He's kind of an above average skater, but Velarde is not the fast guy, and they might want to get more a speedier guy like Ehlers up there. Another thing too is they might try to get just Iafallo up with Nemestikov and Perfetti. That was a line last year when Kyle Connor was out after that knee on knee, and that's a line that was really effective for them. And when they had that long stretch in January, that was what their second line was, and it was very, very good. And the long stretch in January where they would win, where they won a bunch of games. So I could really see them going out there and just going with that, and then filling in Gustafsson on the fourth line with Barron and Kapari. So I think if it's long term, they might bring up Brad Lambert, but I think either way, having the second line be Perfetti, Iafallo, and Nemestikov is a pretty good option, with Ehlers, Scheifele, and Velarde kind of holding the ground up there. And that's a line that we know works very well. Thank you for the question, Almost MLG Gaming. And I think that's what we got for that. All right, and I will see you guys next time. Their next game is on Tuesday. I believe it's Utah. I could be wrong, but we are going to be here. We'll be here right after the game. So make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you like this video. Make sure you got the bell on so you'll be notified for the next Game Over Winnipeg live stream. My name is Brendan Labarre, and thank you for watching Game Over Winnipeg.